Hi! Today's main character found 4 sealed safes in a dumpster, and when he opened them, he was shocked. So let's see what was there. Walter Grady didn't go to the scrapyard looking for treasure. He went because sprinkling up meant piles of metal, and metal meant a few extra dollars. At 68, a retired army vet with a stiff knee and a back that complained every time he lifted wrong, Walter still lived like he was on a schedule. Help his kids when you can, fix what you can, don't waste money. He'd spent years putting everyone else ahead of himself, and now his house showed it. Old wiring, a patched roof line, a shed that leaned a little more every season. He had a quiet dream he never said out loud. A tiny backyard farm set up, a few raised beds, maybe chickens, and something that felt like peace instead of bills. But peace cost money, and Walter didn't have extra. That morning, he hauled a trailer of busted shelving, rusted pipe, and bent brackets to a scrapyard on the edge of town outside Tulsa, Oklahoma. The place had its own rules: wait in, unload, and if you saw something in the resale row, you could buy it cheap, as is. No questions, no returns. Walter liked that part because it felt fair in a simple way. Pay for what you take, don't pretend. While he waited for his turn, he walked the resale line, mostly out of habit, scanning of anything useful, a toolbox, a workbench wise, maybe a decent hand truck. That's when he saw them. 4 safes sat near the back, half dusted and scuffed, like someone had dumped them in a hurry and never looked back. 2 were large, commercial-looking, that kind you'd bolt to a concrete floor. 1 was medium, older, with a scratched brass dial. The last was small, the type people keep in closets for documents and jewelry. Walter stopped because safes aren't normal scrap. Safes mean either somebody upgraded, somebody moved, or somebody panicked. He crouched, ran his fingers along a seam, and felt the chill of heavy steel under sun-warmed air. He tested the doors. Without thinking he'd get lucky, all 4 were locked. Not broken lock, locked, real locked. Walter leaned in and listened, like he used to listen for problems in engines and doors. Then he did the one thing that made his stomach tighten. He shook the small safe slightly. Something inside shifted with a dull, controlled weight, not loose junk, not empty air. The medium safe did it too, a quieter sound like metal against metal. The 2 big ones barely made any noise at all, but even that meant something. Empty safes don't get dumped with this much effort unless someone wants them gone. Walter asked one of the yard guys where they came from. The guy shrugged like it was the weather. Estate, clean out, maybe, he said. Could it be a business remodel? We don't track it. If you buy it, it's yours. That answer didn't make Walter feel better. It made him think harder. He pictured stolen property. He pictured headlines. He pictured his grandkids hearing his name in the wrong kind of story. Then he pictured his bank account and the sagging shed and the repairs he kept postponing because there was always something more urgent for someone else. He did the math the way he always did: safest choice versus smartest choice. He paid for all 4, cheap, but still enough to make him swallow, and loaded them onto his trailer with a grunt that reminded him he wasn't 30 anymore. He told himself he'd try to find an owner through the yard, through local listings, through anyone who could point to where they came from. He also told himself he wouldn't force them open like a criminal, he'd do it clean. Back home, he rolled the safes into his garage, one by one, and stared at them, under the bare bulb like they were a problem he'd invited into his life. The 2 large safes sat there like dead weight. The medium one looked old enough to have stories. The small one looked like trouble dressed up as opportunity. Walter rested his hand on the small safe's door, felt that heavy steel, and finally admitted the truth he'd been trying not to say out loud. Whatever was inside, those two smaller safes had been important to someone, and he had just brought it home. Walter didn't sleep much that night, not because he was excited, but because his brain kept running the same loop. What if this is stolen? What if someone comes looking? What if opening it makes me the problem? By sunrise, he'd made a rule for himself: no smashing, no shady shortcuts, no body with a pry bar. If he was going to open anything, he would do it like a responsible man who could explain every step. He called the scrapyard first and asked again if they had any paperwork or a name tied to the drop-off. The answer didn't change: cash sale, as is, no history. Walter tried one more angle and called a local estate clean-out company he'd seen on trucks around town. They told him the same thing, in different words. Once it hits the yard, it's treated like scrap unless someone claims it immediately. That afternoon, his grandson Eli showed up after school, 16, lanky, always pretending he wasn't impressed by anything. Walter didn't tell him he found treasure. He told him the truth. I bought 4 safes. I don't know what's in them. We're going to do this smart. Eli lit up anyway because a locked safe is a mystery no teenager can ignore. Together they started with the 2 big safes, expecting the worst. One was empty except for a few dusty bolt plates. The other had a cracked plastic tray and a dead key ring with no keys. It was almost funny, 2 heavy monsters that held nothing, like a prank the universe played on anyone who hoped too hard. The medium safe was next. Walter tried the dial slowly, listening, feeling for clicks the way an old mechanic feels for a misfire. He got it open after half an hour, sweaty and annoyed, and found paperwork that looked important but wasn't valuable: old insurance forms, expired passports, a stack of bank statements from years ago. Not useless, but not life-changing. Walter set it aside anyway, because papers still belonged to somebody's story and he didn't like the idea of throwing them back into the world. Then they faced the small safe. The one felt different from the start. It was cleaner, newer, and heavier than it should have been. Walter didn't want Eli learning the wrong lesson, so he drove it to a reputable locksmith across town, an older guy with the calm hands who didn't ask for drama, just as if Walter owned it. Walter showed the receipt from the yard and signed a simple form. The locksmith drilled it right away, controlled and contained, and when the door finally released, even the locksmith paused. Inside was the kind of mix that makes your mouth go dry: a velvet pouch with gold, jewelry, not costume, real weight, real stamps, a second pouch with all the coins sleeved and labeled like somebody knew what they had, a man's watch in a hard case, classic and clean, the kind of piece you keep for decades. Under that was a thick envelope with cash, not movie cash, but enough to make Walter's hands go still. Eli stared like he just watched his grandpa step into a different life. Walter didn't celebrate. He asked the locksmith quietly if any of it looked fake. The man shook his head and said, "Get it appraised somewhere honest. Don't take this for the first place that smiles at you." Walter's first stop was a pawn shop anyway, because when you're broke, pawn shops feel like the fastest answer. The offer they gave him felt wrong, too low, too quick, too eager. Walter could see it on their faces. They smelled desperation. As he left, a man in line behind him, maybe 50, leaned close and said, "They'll bury you in fees. Go to the coin shop on the riverside. Ask for Dana. Tell her you want an appraisal first, not a sale." Walter didn't know the man's name, but he knew kindness when it showed up. At the coin shop, the difference was night and day. Dana weighed the gold, cracked stamps, examined the coins under a loupe, and opened the watch case like it deserved respect. She didn't promise miracles, she gave numbers with receipts and options. Sell some, keep some, consign the watch for a fair percentage. Walter chose a middle path that felt like him. He sold part of the gold and portion of the coins, kept the papers from the medium safe, boxed up in case anyone ever asked, and kept the watch. Not because he was sentimental, but because he wanted one symbol he could touch on hard days, proof that life can change without breaking you. The final payout wasn't a jackpot, but it was enough to change Walter's year. He fixed the wiring, repaired the shed, paid off the small debts he'd been dragging behind him like chains. Then he did the thing he'd wanted for years and never let himself do. He built raised beds, bought a starter coop, and set up the mini farm he'd always talked himself out of. Eli helped him level boards and hang wire, and Walter realized the best part wasn't the money, it was the feeling of finally building something for himself without guilt. He never learned who owned the safes. He asked around, nobody knew. The scrapyard didn't care. In a strange way, that was the point. Some people leave behind a mess. Some people leave behind a locked box and disappear. Walter couldn't fix their story, but he could fix his own. And every morning after that, when he walked outside to feed his birds and saw the watch on his wrist catching the sun, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Not luck, relief. This is the story. Share in the comments if you like it. How do you feel about it? Maybe you have something similar to this story to share. So please give me a thumbs up and subscribe, and see you next time.